Hi, I'm Larry Richardson, your step-by-step chef. In this episode, we're going to make shrimp stir-fry. I mean, what more do I have to say? It's shrimp and it's stir-fry. It's shrimp with a lot of veggies, and you can serve it on rice or lo mein or Chinese noodles of any sort. I mean, heck, you can just eat it out of a bucket, and I guarantee you'll love it. So we're going to make some shrimp stir-fry. It's a complete meal in a bowl, and I think you're really going to love it. So come on, let's cook. Now the cool thing about stir fries is it looks complicated, but it's not. Trust me on this, it's not. So the first thing we're going to use is 1 pound of shrimp. Now I have frozen shrimp, and you can defrost these in your refrigerator, overnight, let them slow defrost, or you can put them in a lukewarm bath. Shrimp do defrost pretty quickly that way, so I don't really worry about it. Just make sure that you keep them in the refrigerator. Don't let them get warm. Don't let them sit on the counter for hours, or then you're going to have something very different than shrimp stir fry. We're also going to use, that was smooth, 2 carrots, and these are little carrots. And so I would say that is 1 carrot technically. So we got those. We have 2 celery stalks. We have 1 medium onion. We're going to use half of that sweet red pepper. We're going to use 1 jalapeno. Now, if you don't like heat in your Chinese food or in anything else, skip the jalapeno. You don't need it. We're also going to use an 8-ounce bag of bean sprouts. I have 3 garlic cloves. We're going to use a half a cup of soy sauce, a 1/4 cup of sweet cooking wine. And that is a good flavor when you're making Chinese food. Absolutely delicious. Then we will have 2 tablespoons of sesame seed oil. And then we're going to use 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil to saute our veggies and our shrimp. We're going to use 2 tablespoons of cornstarch to thicken our sauce just ever so slightly. 2 cups of water. And then I have these Chinese noodles. Now, if you don't want noodles, you can serve it on rice or lo mein. You name it, you can have it that way. I have these Chinese noodles. And again, I like it on rice and lo mein too, so I'm not leaving them out. So let me show you how to put all this together. Okay, so while our frozen shrimp defrosts in a warm bath, we're going to prepare the veggies. And I mean, fresh shrimp are the gold standard. Honestly, if I had access to really fresh shrimp, take me to Louisiana. I would make it that way. But the frozen taste good too. They're just fine. So what I want to do while those are defrosting is prepare our veggies. And what I'm going to do is take our celery stalks. And I did trim off the ends. You don't want those leafy ends in it. I'm just cutting it lengthwise like that. You don't want huge chunks of celery in this dish, but they do add a nice crunch and a nice texture. So we're just giving them a chop, and these are about 1/8 of an inch thick. And some people use those water chestnuts, but in my house, those are not allowed. People just don't like them. They have that kind of sponginess to them. Celery is the next best thing, I find, when you're making a stir fry. They're the next best thing to provide that crunch, and they also have like that really fresh green flavor. So we're just giving them a nice chop, nice little pieces. And can't you picture this mixed into a stir fry? Just absolutely delicious. And that'll do it. So we're just going to combine the veggies into this bowl. Setting them aside just makes it easier. Getting all the prep work done ahead of time. Get the prep work done before you start any of your pans. Get this done. I guess you could start the rice now because it doesn't take that long to make this dish. And maybe turn the water on for your Chinese noodles or lo mein because they cook pretty fast. But in general, get this prep work done first. It just makes cooking so much easier. Next up is our carrots. Now with the carrots, what I want to do is just peel. If you have a julienne, a julienne thingy, for better want of a word, if you have a julienne handle, appliance, whatever you want to call it, you can use that. But I'm just doing this to them. You don't want the carrots to really stand out. You don't want chunks of carrot, you know, because it'll kind of turn your stir fry into a stew. So I'm just giving them a nice thin cut. They add both color, flavor, and even a little bit of sweetness to the dish, especially if you have super fresh carrots. So those are the reasons why we're going to add some carrots. When I worked in Washington, D.C., way back in, I'm not going to tell you when, one of the coolest things they had was noodle shops, and maybe they still do. And they would add carrots and green onion, and then you would get whatever you wanted. It could be, it could be a stir fry that had chicken in it, beef, shrimp. It could be all three combined. And it was one of my favorite lunches, and I would have that every Friday. It was just so delicious. So that's why I make sure to add my carrots, is to thank all of those restaurants in Washington, D.C., all those little takeout restaurants that fed me in Washington, D.C. for about a decade. Absolutely loved those places. And everyone else in D.C. did too at that point. It was just such a fun time to be there, back in the, I'm not going to tell you when. Okay, so there's our carrots. Now, I'm not adding these carrot strips. They're just supposed to be little pieces of carrot, nice little flavor to the dish. So I'm just going to go down like this and cut it at about 1/4 inch. You don't want absolutely confetti that vanishes, but just cutting it up like this. Just make sure that it's a flavorant and it adds color, but you're not making just a carrot stir fry. The other reason I like the carrots, especially in the stir fry with the shrimp, is I like the complement of these kind of sweeter vegetables with the shrimp. They can stand up to it. So we're just adding that into our stir fry bowl, our veggie stir fry bowl. And here's our green onion, an absolute must if you can get it. Now that's one of the points I want to make is I have traveled everywhere in this country, and I know at certain times of year you can't get all these vegetables. And if you take something like the bean sprouts, you might not be able to get them at all, but don't quit. Even if you can't get the bean sprouts, still make these dishes with the other veggies, because it will still come out absolutely delicious. And that's true for just about any recipe. If you can't get something, either substitute for it, add some more celery, some more carrots, some more green onion, substitute and think, what would make this fresh? And what do we have locally that will make this work? And I guarantee you, you will find ingredients that will work perfectly. The other thing is, when you make these dishes, experiment. You might like it with more or less of any of these ingredients than I do. Green onion. Oh, love this. And you will see this making a cameo appearance in an awful lot of the step-by-step chef recipes on stepbystepchef.com. Now let's take our sweet red pepper. Now, if you can only get green bell pepper, that's fine too. It's a slightly more pungent taste to the green red pepper. Now I'm slicing this thin. This also adds color and sweetness to the dish. But if you can only get bell pepper, green bell pepper, that's fine too. It's just a little bit more, it has a little bit more of a bite to it than the sweet red pepper. And this is another, sweet red pepper is like a standard in step-by-step chef cooking, but green bell pepper comes out perfectly too. It's just a little bit different taste. But there's not so much pepper in this dish. It's not like stuffed peppers, where this is absolutely going to make a critical difference in your dish. So we're just giving this kind of a dice. You don't want huge chunks in the dish. You want it nice and mixed in with the other ingredients. Already smells delicious. I should just throw some salad dressing on this, eat it, and call it a night. But I won't, because I love stir fry. Now we have our onion. This is another must in stir-friedom. You gotta have some onion in it. And you know, I love these sweet onions, and I know you're really sick of hearing that, but there's just something about them. But yellow onion, white onion, perfect. I mean, if you have another onion that I don't even know about, it's like an heirloom onion, add that too. Now the onion, what we're going to do is just cut the ends off and just turn into really thin strips. See, just these really thin strips. You don't want huge chunks of onion in it. All of these ingredients are supposed to complement the dish and not absolutely rock it. And one of the reasons with this stir fry that I do this is shrimp is kind of subtle to begin with. So you don't want any of these veggies to go, hey, this is a vegetable dish. You want it to taste a little shrimpy. So I'm just adding both halves of this onion. Okay, and here's our optional jalapeno. Now, if you don't like jalapeno, don't add it. If you don't want heat, some people really do not like heat. I love it. But it's totally up to you. And all I'm doing is coring it, removing the seeds, giving it a quick rinse, and then we're just going to slice it into small pieces. We're basically going to dice it. Now I'm wearing this glove because I don't want to get the heat from the jalapeno on my fingers. You will do this once in your cooking career. You will cook with peppers, hot red peppers, buchalokia, you name it. You will cook with that and you will touch something on yourself. It will be your eye, your nose, or maybe even just your fingers, and they turn on fire. I like a glove to protect myself from that heat. And if you don't have the gloves, just use a knife and fork. Just try to avoid skin contact with a really hot pepper. It's just not pleasant, and it will travel. I guarantee you it will travel. And I don't want to get complaints. So there is our heat. Nice contrast to all the sweet in this dish. Next up we have our garlic cloves. I have a crusher for the garlic. If you don't, just finely mince it. It'll come out just fine. Just adds a nice background note to this dish. And if you don't like garlic, don't add it at all. But I love garlic. I mean, honestly, I think the only dish it doesn't appear in is my pancakes and my French toast. Just kidding. Just kidding. Get back here. So we add our garlic. There we go. And now the bean sprouts, I'm just going to leave them as bean sprouts. If it says rinse them off, rinse them off. This is pre-washed, ready to eat. That means they're pre-washed and ready to eat, I guess. But these are going to be set aside and just added when we're cooking the veggies. So they're just right over there. Then let's prepare some more of the basics for our stir-fry sauce, because the thing about stir-fry is it happens fast. So we want to make sure that when it's happening, we have a lot of this stuff ready to just pour into the stir-fry pan. So here's our half a cup of soy sauce, our quarter cup of sweet cooking wine, and our 2 tablespoons of sesame seed oil. And we're just going to set those aside. Now, what we're going to do with this pan is we're going to take the tails off the shrimp. The shrimp had tails, they were not pre-cooked. We're going to put them in here with our 2 cups of water, and then we're going to put them on kind of a boil. And what that's going to create is kind of a sauce, a liquor, a shrimp liqueur that we can then thicken up, and it will add that shrimpy flavor to the stir fry. Trust me, it's delicious. So let me start doing that. So we're just going to add our 2 cups of water. And then what I'm going to do is take our defrosted or fresh shrimp, and let me make sure you can see this. Okay. And I'm just going to do this to each one of those. I'm not wasting a lot of the shrimp. You can still see there's lots of shrimp there that we're going to stir fry, but this is going to boil down and add a nice shrimpy flavor to the stir fry sauce. So I'm going to do that with all of our shrimp. Okay, now, before I meet you over at the stove, let's mix our cornstarch into our soy sauce mixture. And what this does is helps to ensure that the cornstarch doesn't clump, which of course it's doing on me right now. But what I do is just kind of give it a squish, keep it moving, get it nice and even, get rid of the clumps. This is why you don't want to add it right into your stir fry, because the cornstarch will clump like this. Some people use sifters, some people will slowly add it with a fork, and this, for some reason, is very clumpy. It might be because there's oil in with the soy sauce. But what I need to do is get rid of those dots of cornstarch. Just get rid of them, mix it all in, nice and even. We're not making donuts, so we got to get rid of those clumps. And again, this is why we do this ahead of time, so we can deal with it. So I'm going to get that all smoothed out. And the other thing I want to do ahead of time, because once you start the heat, when you're doing stir fry, things happen fast, is I don't want these huge shrimps in. Huge shrimps. That's kind of an oxymoron. But anyways, I don't want huge shrimp in our stir fry, so I'm just going to cut it into thirds. And I'm going to do this for this whole bowl of huge shrimps. So just going to go through and do this. And these cook really fast, and this is like the last ingredient that we add because the shrimp do cook fast, and they shrink, and they can get tough, and they can vanish. So we want everything all ready, so when we do the stir fry, we're just chucking ingredients right into the dish. So that's what we're doing. Just make it into these little bite-sized pieces. So I'm going to meet you over at the stove. Okay, so I have my Chinese noodle water heating up, because again, the stir fry process is very fast, and I want to make sure that our pasta, our rice, you might need 20 minutes for the rice. You want to make sure that that's running already. And you can see I'm boiling those shrimp tails to get the flavor out of them. Now, keep an eye on this, because it will rise up and go over the top if you leave it on high. So you will have to adjust the temperature. And the longer that you boil this, the stronger the shrimp flavor will be in the stir fry sauce. So I would recommend that you boil this for, about 10 to 15 minutes. You might want to add a little bit more water if you start to get down to Drysville, but that's the point. And then what we're going to do is strain this. You certainly don't want crunchy shrimp tails in your stir fry, but we're going to give a little bit of a strain to get rid of the shrimp tails, and then this sauce, this shrimp liqueur, will add an incredible flavor to the stir fry. To me, it makes a difference. I mean, if you don't want to go through this part of the process, then you can add a cup of, of chicken broth you made on your own, or a good commercial chicken broth that you really like. But I always find with these seafood dishes that if I go through this step and add the legitimate seafood flavor to it, it just comes out better. Now the other thing, and I'm going to show you in a moment, so we're going to let this just boil for a little bit. And now let's go over to our stir fry pan. Now if you have a wok, use it. I have an electric wok. Most people don't. I love my electric wok. but most people don't have that, and I understand. It's no problem. So what I'm using is a high-sided skillet for our stir-fry process, and it will just come out as yummy as ever. So I'm adding our, this has been preheated over medium. I'm adding our oil, vegetable oil, and then we'll just stir-fry our veggies. And the trick to stir frying is you want them to be a little bit crisp. You don't want to have these, overcooked veggies in this. So just keep giving it a little bit of a stir. I think that's where the name stir fry comes from. And saute them. Once the onions start to appear a little bit clear, a little bit translucent, then you're going to know that the other ingredients can be added. So that's what we're doing. And this will take about 5 minutes at medium heat. So I'll be right back. Okay, so here we are 5 minutes later. You can see the onions are starting to appear translucent. So let's add our shrimp. And we're just going to stir fry these until they turn pink. You want to make sure they're cooked all the way through. This is not a sushi dish. I mean, it really shouldn't be. But let's get that cooked through. So when they start to appear pink, then we're going to add our other ingredients. And 5 minutes later, our shrimp is nice and pink, and it's time to add our bean sprouts. And I add these at this point because I don't want them to get too limp because they add a nice crunchiness to our stir fry. So let's just add those in, stir them in. Give them a couple of minutes, and then we're going to add our sauces, which is going to add even more to the cooking process. So let's give these bean sprouts, again, about 5 minutes. Just give them a little bit of a cooking, but don't make them completely limp. You don't want them absolutely soft. They got to have a little bit of a crunch in this dish. So I'll be back in a minute. And 5 minutes later, everything is looking superb. So here's our sauce. Just stir that in, and the cornstarch will thicken that up a little bit. And then what I want to do is take a couple of scoops of our shrimp water. Now, I strained the shrimp out, so there's no danger of me dropping shrimp shells into this. So I'm adding about 3/4 of a cup of that shrimp sauce into this. It just adds that shrimpy flavor on top of the shrimp themselves. And this will take, again, I know I keep saying it, about 5 minutes to thicken up, and then it's ready. Oh, is it ready? Now some people, they don't like a saucy stir fry. I do. If you want to scrimp on the sauce, if you want to leave some of that shrimp sauce out of it, in fact I'm going to add a little bit more. I might be up to a cup now. You can leave it out if you don't like it saucy. I like it saucy. So in 5 minutes, this is going to be all ready. You can see it's already thickening up. That cornstarch is doing its magic. You can still see the shrimp. They didn't shrink down to nothing. Everything is cooking nicely. I'm just going to get it nice and heated up, get that sauce thickened up, and that's going to be ready to serve. Oh, I wish you were here. So congratulations. Look at what you just did. You just made this delicious shrimp stir fry. You're absolutely going to love it. Now you can add some other ingredients to it. You can add some ginger to it. You could add some white pepper to it, some 5 Chinese spices mixed to it. There's all kinds of things you can do with this. That's the fun of cooking yourself. It's experimenting and making it taste the way you like it. This is the way I like it. Now, if you like this recipe, please visit my website, stepbystepchef.com. There you will find a free printable recipe for this dish. You will also find free free printable recipes and free video links, step-by-step chef video links, for over 175 different recipes. That's breakfast, lunch, and dinner on me. Plus, you're going to find a couple of desserts. Now, I don't want to drop that on my foot. It has happened in the past. The other thing you're going to find is my cookbook, Cooking with the Step-by-Step Chef. I update this every November. So this edition, the 2019 exclusive collector's edition, has 114 recipes. The 2020 November will probably have 175 recipes. You're going to love it. You will love it. Your friends will love it. Your relatives, that casual acquaintance that you're trying to impress. Or if you're trying to seal the business deal, bring a copy of this book. Just slip it across the table silently to the CEO, and you're going to get that deal. That's why, the Step-by-Step Chef. And you don't owe me a commission. I'm here for you. So again, I'm Larry Richardson. I am your Step-by-Step Chef, and I'll see you in the next episode.